Hi, it's Fiona Fernandez, Independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Piedmont, and today I'm going to show you these cards that I've made for my November thank yous. So I've just made a couple of extras. So this is the one I've done a free tutorial for, written instructions. So if you purchase with me in November, here's my host code, and you'll get one of these cards. I'm going to make a few more as well, so if you'd like that, and you'll also get the free instructions as a gift. So that's what we're going to do today. I'll just show you a few of them. So this one I'm using the soft Seedlings and the Stamparatus to do this one, and this is a couple of the variations. That's got another stamp out of the Grassy Grove set. This is out of this one, but I've just made a few different alternatives. This one you have to actually cut that with your snips around there. This one I've ripped it around the edges. This one I just did the embossing folder on white and coloured it a bit with some blending brushes to get that nice effect. I just really love this set, it's so beautiful. I've gone with the green to make it fresh and summery, spring into summer, not autumn. So I'll just put those ones away. I'm going to focus on this one, so I'm just going to bring in my piece of paper from on stage. It's been used, oh well, that happens with these papers, that's okay. But these are really good. You can actually get grid paper from Stampin' Up, and that way you can put it on your workspace. So I'm actually just going to place it here so that I stay in camera mainly and can see, and then also if I need to put ink on anything, I've got a sheet of paper instead of getting it on the workbench. So I'll just put that there, and I think we'll just use a bit of sticky tape today to just place it on and hold it down. And I know that I have to stay, where are we up to, 10, 11, 12, 13, I've got to stay here. I've got to stay in here so I don't go off camera for you. Right, so there's my details. If you're wanting to shop with me or join my team, you're welcome to do that too. There's a sale on in November, so from today is the 15th until the 18th there's a sale of lots of things in the annual catalogue, so make sure you check that out. I've put a link on my stampinup.net page as well, and you can just go straight into the customer website. If you go to my page, you can go shop now. If you go to my specials page, I've got a link in there as well to the post code and straight to the shopping event as well. And there's a blog about this card as well with all the information. So I'm part of a blog hop, and you can hop through and see other people's, what they've created for November too. So I'll just pop that to the side for now, and actually we might leave it on the table there so we can see it all the time in case someone comes in later. It's always good to have that handy. So this is my card. I'll just sit down now so I can do some work for you. So on my written instructions we've got measurements, so I've done it in metric, and there's also an alternative for the letter size, so the card will be a slightly different size with that, but I'm going to work on the metric measurements. So it starts off with telling you what the measurements are, and my first instruction, I'll just put that there, is to cut your cardstock. Just follow my instructions. Cut cardstock to sizes as above. So the first thing we have is the card base, which is Parakeet Party, this colour here. This is one of the new in colours, and I've cut it, I used it for something else, so I've got to make sure my measurements are correct. Let's move my card over, I don't want to ruin that. So I measured to 14.85, which is across here on the trimmer. Make sure we can see everything. So I need to trim a little bit off that. I used it to do something with the other day. I usually keep my little pieces like that in one of my little boxes so that I can go back to those later if I need them. They're nice to add if you want a little something to add. You've got that extra piece. So then we want to score that I put score? Yes. We want to fold it in half, so we score it at 10.5. So the length of an A4 is 21 centimeters. We've got 21 down here. And we want to score it at 10.5. Now I usually score at the other end of my trimmer because I don't want to accidentally cut my paper. So I'll just pop that there, and I've actually even put a little mark down here to tell me that where we're at. Look, I've even put one there. Oh no, I haven't. Oh, I thought I'd put a mark there. It was a bit of vellum. Thought that was a mark. Okay, so scoring is with this grey one, and it's just a little tool that pushes a line into your cardstock. So we score that one, and then we want to fold it in half. So when you've scored it, you've got a little, what we call a valley. So the valley is into the, let me see if we can see that. You see it's like a little valley there. It's put a pressure into the card. So we want to fold it straight down like that, and that way we get a nice neat fold. If we do it the other way, and then we'll end up with a ridge on the inside. That's okay. And just use your bone folder to give that little fold like that. Makes it nice, fits nicely there. So we need, I'll show you why we need that fold first, because we're going to do something else with it, but we're going to cut everything first. So then we have a white, basic white 8x9. So I'm just going to cut this piece down. This is going to be for our leaf. So I'm going to cut it 9 by 8. So if you do any of my card classes, I do written instructions, full written instructions, a bit more involved than the one I've done for this. Not much more, but a little bit more. And I do them online. I'm going to try and do some in-person ones soon, but that'll have to wait till next year now. Right, so that's our piece for there. We've got that piece there. Now what else do we need? We need another piece of basic white for inside the card. So inside we have a little piece like that, and that one's cut at 13. I just had a piece left over here, so I'll just use that. 13.85. So it's a whole centimetre less by 9.5. We're talking centimetres. And again, I've got another little white piece, so I'll put that over here. Put it in my box later. So that will go inside the card here. That's my white piece, and then we need some vellum to do this piece. So I do have a couple on my desk finished, but I'll show you how I make these. So this one here is 8 centimeters by 3. So a piece of vellum, they come in A4 sheets. I've already cut this one off. So if you've cut it off like that, just make sure you measure it, because you want to make sure that that side is 21. I might have cut it off to make it a square. No, see, this one's slightly more, so I want to stick with the 21 side because I want to be able to cut a few out. So because it is 3 centimeters, that goes into 21 by 7. We'll be able to get 7 out of it. I'm going to be making more of these, so I want to make sure I cut it the right way. So it's 21 that way, so I want to cut that into 3 centimeter spots and 8 centimeters the other way. So I'll cut off a piece, 8, and then I'm going to show you what I do when I'm making a few. If you were just making one, you just cut it off at 3, but I want to make a few, so I'm going to cut it off at 9, and then I'll get out the emboss machine and show you what I'm up to. Alright, that's all our cutting, so we can put that away. Let me go to the instructions. Okay, so the next thing, die cut the vellum on the short edge. So the die we're going to use is actually out of the Happiness Abounds bundle. The blossoming, this is Happiness Abounds, and this is the Blossoming Happiness dies, and they have these long pieces in them. This one does, this little one does little circles, so it's up to you which one you use, but I've used the other one, and it's stuck on a magnet so I don't lose it. Got it stuck in here. Here it is. Oh, those magnets are strong. That's the stamper artist. We'll come back to that in a minute. We'll just grab the embossing machine. So because this one is narrow, we could do this on our mini. I might grab the mini. There's our little mini, because that will fit through. If you want to use the big one if you're doing anything wider. Let's see how we go. So I want to put that on there. Make sure we're in camera. So you just line it up. So now just be aware that there's a cutting edge on this. This piece cuts it off. Don't do my trick earlier where I put it that way and then I cut the whole piece off, but I kept it anyway because I'll use it for something. But you want the cut edge, this piece here, to be on the outside, just right along the edge there, so you can actually butt it up against the edge if you want to, but I tend to do it so I can just see what I'm talking about, so I can just see the edge of the vellum like that. Can you see that? Let me see. Sometimes the focus goes on my camera. It's right there. And that way, sorry, I moved it a bit. I have to make sure it's right. And it's worth taking your time to make it right. And put a sticky over it if you need to hold it all in position. I'm just going to whack this on and hope for the best. Once you press it down, oops, I want to move that too. Come on, little thing, grab it. Oh, I've gone a bit crooked. I've just got to straighten that up. You want to make sure your sides are fairly straight here going into the machine. Just give that a bit of a push to get it going. Oh, it's not grabbing. I've probably got them lined up too much at the top. It doesn't like it if they're all lined up there. And the bottom one at the moment is different to is the same as the top one. I think that's the problem. Let me just move that again, and don't worry if it does this, you just go back and fix it up. Not a problem. Some days are like that. When we're filming and when we're not. Rightio, I think we're good. Okay, it's moving my handle a bit, that's better. Let's bring this back straight. Okay. So you can see the top of my plates now. See how they're all uneven at the top here? If you butt them up close together, it won't grab them. So just make sure they're nice and even, like uneven. Make sure the sides are nice and flush. And then off you go. That's how you do that one. And then you just take your little piece off and put it aside so you don't lose it. Probably back in the packet would be good. And you can just lift that up. And they mostly just pop straight out, these ones. So if you go, this is doing a few together. So I'm showing you how to do one big piece. Just get rid of those into the garbage bin. And I have learnt that if I scrape my pieces like this, they come off quite well into the bin. I'll just use the edge of the other die. Right, so we'll just put the mini away. And then I'm going to cut that down to get my 3 centimetres. Make sure it actually go that way. I'm lining it up on the 3 there so that I had more to hold on to there. And then I'll put it on 3 again. See, now I've got 3. And then I won't do that one now, I'll do that later. Then I've got another one to do, and I'll do some more. So we've got those ready. Let's put those two over there and keep one here. We've got our inside, we've got that piece, we've got our front. And now what we need to do now is emboss the front of the card base using the Leaf Fall 3D embossing folder on the Stampin' Up cut and emboss machine. Oh, I've said score in center for fold, but anyway, you can score later, but I scored it first because that way you know where to do it. Just bring that one over. Now this is the big machine, and we need the big one because we're using the embossing folder, which is on my desk somewhere. They just covered it up, I think. Where did it go? I had it before I started. It's always the way, isn't it? Here it is. It's alright, it's never too far away. Here it is. This is beautiful. 3D falling leaves. It's just really gorgeous. Right, so this one we're going to use with the 3D embossing folder. So we only need the base plate, number 1 and number 4, which is this one, number 4. And just get your plates out. So I can move something out of the way there. So we can turn handles. So with this one we'll just open it up. I hope I remember which way I had it before. So I've got this little flower at the top. Flower, leaf. This little leaf up the top here. So I'm just basing it on that one. So this is the front of my card. And I want to make sure we have that. Which way did we go? Which way did we go? I just can't remember which way I had it. Was it that way? No, it was that way. That way. So the Stampin' Up logo is on the top. And you can line the fold of your card up, so the halfway line, with the edge of the embossing folder, like that. See how it's like that? So just line that up along there. Normally you put these folders in hinge first, but when you're doing this you can't really do that. You can't put that under there. Well, I don't anyway. I put it this way. If you were doing a smaller piece, definitely put the hinge in first. Just put that in there and roll it through. I love the wow moment. I love embossing folders. Wow, there you go. Isn't that gorgeous? So pretty. Look at that. Look at the detail there. I love it. So gorgeous. Okay, we've got that. We've done that. Alright, the next thing to do is make sure your desk is straight when you're filming. Right, we've got the card here so you can see the card. I like that. I like being able to see things when other people are doing it too. So I've got to try and make sure we stay in. Okay, right, I'm going to follow my instructions. I need to move that halfway point though, don't I? Score in the center and fold. I'm going to move that instruction right now before I forget, and put it up the top where it says, actually I'm going to put in the same section but move it back one. Yes, I think that will work. Okay, and then I'll make sure you have the right instructions. Okay, stamp the sentiment onto the vellum. Do we get our little piece of sentiment wherever we hit it? Here it is. And we're going to stamp that with our So Grateful. Now you can do this on the Stamparatus or you can do it with a block. For this one, because it's so little, I think I'll just do it straight on the block. I'm just using a D block, and we just want our little So Grateful. Just pop it on the table, push your block down onto it, and I'm using the Mossy Meadow, the darkest one of these greens. Just tap that, tap, 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 and keep it nice and straight. I tend to hold it like that with 4, you know, two thumbs, it's just the way I hold them. Tap, 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 and turn it over and have a look at it, and make sure you've got enough ink on there. Yep, that looks pretty good. And make sure you don't get ink all over you. So it's up to you whether you want to use your lines on your grid paper. You can line it up like that. This stamp is a little unusual, so you feel like it's one way but it's the other way, so it might be good to have it with some lines. I'm just sort of looking at it going, I think that's okay. And I now need to let that dry. And make sure you wash your stamp straight away, and your chamois. A nice clean chamois. These are fantastic, and I have just washed that, believe it or not. It does stain, but it doesn't matter. It still washes up, you know, it just keeps on working, which is fantastic. Alright, so we've washed our stamp, and then we can put that back away, or leave it there if you're going to make a lot of them. So you can heat dry that. I'm going to just let it sit for a bit up on my computer there for a minute, and I'll heat it if I need to afterwards. So now we're going to stamp the leaf onto the basic white piece of cardstock using our Stamparatus. So here's my Stamparatus. Now I've got the corner in there. I'll have to move my card. I'll just leave that there so you can see it. What I'm going to do is put that there, because when we open our Stamparatus, we can rest it on there. So if you just put another ink pad there. These magnets are very strong, so try not to let them touch each other. They might break like this one did if they smash together. So that's very important to remember that. We just get this piece. So this is our little piece for our leaf. So I'm going to pop that in the corner there and put a magnet there. And a magnet there. You want to make sure they're holding firmly because we're going to be lifting it up a couple of times. And then we just put our leaf on. We'll put it about there. Now this is quite a tight fit down here. You don't have to have it in the corner. I just like it in the corner because I feel if you can, it's handy because it's, if you move anything accidentally, you know you were in the corner. So I try and work in the corner if I can, but it just depends on what I'm doing. So you put your plate down, push it onto the stamp, and then that should lift that up nicely, and your magnets are holding it down. So we've got our stamp there, and I'm going to use the Parakeet Party first. What have I said there? Make sure it's okay. Make sure to position the card secure with magnets. Position the card into the corner. That's what I've said. Just reading my instructions back. See the photo. There's photos on my instructions, so you know exactly where to place it if it moves. All right. Then place the stamp position. Okay. Okay. When placing the clear plates into the Stamparatus, this is a tip I've included. Make sure to always hold them at a right angle to the base like this. So when you're moving the plates out, you lift them straight up, and when you're putting them in, you put them straight down. Don't try and pull them out on an angle. Right, Parakeet Party. Let's go. I just inked the whole stamp. Not too heavily, just tap, tap, tap. We don't want heaps and heaps, but we want enough colour on it. I think that looks like enough. You can see it on there. Let me see if you can see it on there. You know what? I'll just bring that up for a second so you can see it. There you go. See my ink? And then you just bring it down. Give it a firm press. Just press it around the edges. The good thing about using this is if you don't like it, you haven't got enough ink, you can do it again. I'm happy with that because I want a variegated look. And because we're using card, most of the ink got absorbed onto the card. When I stamped onto the vellum, this one, it tends to blur a little bit more and it doesn't absorb it because it's vellum, and I had to heat tool that to dry it. Okay, so you do get a different look with that using the vellum. So I've used that colour, and then because most of it's gone and this is a darker colour than that, I'm not worried about cleaning that off. I'm just going to put some Pear Pizzazz, and again I'm just going to try and do it so that I'm not putting too much in the middle. I want it around the edges more. And if you put your ink on and then decide there's too much on there, you can always get a tissue. I didn't put that in the instructions, but you can get a tissue and just dab it off a little bit. I just want a few little bits around here, a little bit on the stem more. And don't worry if it's on the edge of the stamp there, as long as you don't push it really hard. Push it firmly so that it keeps the stamp flat. It's not a problem. Right, let's try that and see how that turns out. I just love doing these. They turn out so cool. And they all turn out different. Look at that. Wow. Wow. Okay. I'm going to leave it like that. That's pretty cool. Now, do I want any darker colours? Let me have a look at my card. Let's look at this one. Look, it's totally different to that one too, look. But I'm happy with that. It's cool. Alrighty then. This one looks like it's got a tiny bit more of the parakeet party in the middle there, but I think I'll leave it. So then when you've got your stamp the way you want it, you just do clean off your stamping. And because it's the darker bit, I would clean it off before I do my next card anyway. Get it off the edges. And then when you're finished doing all your stamping, give it a good clean on your, there's a tool called a Stampin' Scrub, and this has little wet drops there, and this is the dry side, so you spray and mist on there. There's a stamp cleaner called no, it's not called that, hang on. No, it's not called that. Too many bottles. Oh, it's in here somewhere. Where did I hide it? Come on, out you come. Up the back. Stampin' Mist. Spray it on this side and scrub your stamp into it. And that gives your stamp a good clean when you're finished. Okay, so we'll take our little card out of there. Leave the stamp there for now. So for this part we're going to use a stamping piece mat. Let me scroll down my instructions. I've got pictures in there of the stamping, and then so once it's dry, it dries pretty quick on the paper. Let's put that back there. So this little exercise, you need your snips, and you need to be extremely careful, of course, when we're using scissors. And because we're going to be roughing it over the edges of the Stampin' mat. So I've got two mats. I use one for stamping and one for piercing, as you can see. And I use this one. See how this edge is a bit rough there? I use this one for doing this. Actually, I'll use that edge because I've used that edge before. It's easier to hold it too. So I put it over just a tiny bit. Only a couple of mils over. And I go like this with my scissors. And these are very sharp little snips, but because you've got the mat underneath, so my fingers are right away from where I'm actually scraping, and then turn it round and do the other side. It does make a bit of fluff all over the table, so it's good to have the paper there too so you can gather it all up again. This makes a little rough edge. You can dip into it a bit further with that mat underneath. Put a few more cuts into the card. Just make sure that edge is over a little bit. So you can see on the back, I'm over the edge just a little bit. Last one. There we go, it's all fluffy. It's cool. Right, let's get all the fluff off the table. I've stuck it down, so it's going to be a bit trickier. I stuck my piece of paper down. Just get that off there though. We don't want that everywhere, do we? Right, there we go. So it looks like that. One out of the way. Just make sure I'm still centered on the screen there. Right, we'll put that little one up there. Right, the next thing to do, attach the leaf panel to the front of the card. I always say using adhesive of your choice, but if you're not sure what to do, just use what I did. I use the multi-purpose liquid glue. I do use glue dots a fair bit too, depending on what we're doing. I just put a little bit on, just be careful not to squeeze it too hard, otherwise you'll get too much out. I tend to use this end all the time. I never even think to use that end anymore. I haven't used that end much at all. Like I tried it once or twice and went, I'll just keep using this end. But you need to get comfortable with what you like. There's a tissue. I just got keep tissues handy on the table, so if I get glue on my finger. And then just place it to the side. You can copy my picture if you want to. I just sort of tend to look at it and go, yeah, I like it there. It's your card, so put it where you like it. I always try and place things first onto things, like fiddle around like this. So I'll show you what I do with this bit. So the next bit is tie some twine. Where's my twine? Some twine. I didn't put a measurement for how much, but I just tend to do it this way. Before I cut it off, I tie the bow, so and you can leave a little bit extra if you want to and trim that off. I don't like to waste too much, so it's a bit rolly, this one. Just tie a little bow, she says. Oh dear. Right. It does twist and twirl a bit, this stuff. So you get your bow sort of tied, so see how big you want it. I might, that one's a bit smaller. I might go a bit smaller. That'll do. And then get your snips and snip it off. Oh, I don't know how big it was. It was, let's have a look at a ruler. With the bow on it, you've got at least, what have we got there? Oh, come on thing. We've got 18 plus another, what, 10. So it's about 28. So you probably need, you know, maybe 30 centimetres for your bow. Okay, so this is not quite dry. You can see the shiny bits on it. Hang on, put my finger in the way. Oh, make it magic. It won't focus on it. Oh, there it is. It's not quite dry, so we're going to dry that. I've got my heat tool here. And if you're drying ink like this, you don't need it on the, so this has got 2 settings on it, so you don't need it on the hottest setting. Just make sure you got nothing there that's going to affect. I've got all my inks closed and everything, and just put it on the number 1 to dry it. And just keep on checking it. And the shine should go, like it shouldn't be quite so shiny as it was before. It's hard to see on camera. Just having a closer look at that. I just don't want it to smudge. Put the button the wrong way then. Yes, it's a little bit more. Go a little tiny hot. You won't need much very hot, otherwise it'll make your paper curl too much. Okay, I think that's alright. Right. So this one looks a tiny bit lighter than the other one. We just put that there. Decide where we're going to put our ribbon, bling, twine, whatever you want to call it. Twine. That one's gone a bit funny. Just have to twist it around. Twine's funny like that. Okay, so this one here I tied through the holes, but you don't have to do that. You can if you want to. This one, I'll show you that. And this one, well, maybe I should just do that so I can show you. It's up to you. They can all be different, you know. I like making my cards all different, unique like us. I don't tend to make a real lot of cards the same. So even in my thank you cards like this, they'll all be a little bit different. The same but different. Just tie yourself a little bow. A little bit fiddly. That's why, you know, if it's easier for you to do the bow separately first, do it that way. And then work out where you want to put that, and we're going to use a glue dot. So I'll just put the glue dot underneath there, like that. Grab it on there, and you can just make sure it's sort of just behind the twine. You won't see it that way. Just bring it down. You can move glue dots around a little bit. Just bring that in a little bit. And then stick it where, whoops, get the back of the twine out. And stick it so that the sew sits between those two leaves there. I'm just going to push that down. I think I put an extra one. No, I've only got the one on that one. They're pretty strong, those glue dots, so as you can see, look, I'm pulling that a bit, it's not coming off, which is good. And then just tighten your bow. If you feel that the bow is needing more to hold it in, you can put another one underneath here to hold it down. I might do that. The other thing I do with glue dots is fold them in half. Fold it over first with your, take your pick tool or your snips, so that you're only going to end up with a thin little piece. You can even cut them in half if you really want to, if you only want a thin piece. I'm going to stick that in there under the knot and push that down. So it's a tiny little bit of sticky there, but it's good. And that way, hopefully, that will hold it in place. and it won't come undone. So we're nearly finished. We just have to put in our centerpiece here. If you want to stamp on the centerpiece, I don't always do that. Some people do, it's up to you. I haven't on this one. You can just add an extra stamp on the edge or something like that and pretty it up a bit. And again, I just use my Tombow and I just put a thin bit of glue around. I don't go too close to the edges because once you push it down it will smear out a bit. And with Tombow, until you push it down hard, you can still move it a little bit. So I just sort of put one end on, make sure I've got it sitting there. And because I haven't gone right to the edges, that also allows for a little bit of movement. If you put your glue right up to the very edge and then you have to move it back, 2 millimeters, you're going to have glue sticking out everywhere. So that's the other reason I don't go right to the edge. Once you do this, though, you'll find that the glue holds really nicely anyway. Look, so that's my little card. I love having extra long pieces of twine, but if you don't, feel free to cut them shorter. I just love it. I love them all. They're so cute. And don't forget, if you're selling cards, if you want to buy products and sell cards, you can do that. But Stampin' Up has a policy, the Angel policy. You can read all about it on the website. Down the bottom of the customer website, there's a thing called Angel policy. And you do need to stamp the back of your cards with a Stampin' Up stamp. So I have my own By Fee handcraft stamp, and I have a Stampin' Up stamp there. So I'll just stamp the back of a card to show you what I do, and I just use whatever ink I'm working with or just the black. Just get some ink on there. Now I sometimes stamp that off first just to double check it, so I'll just grab a little slip of paper, just make sure that's all good. And then I just put that in the middle on the back like that. Oh, that one didn't go as well as I'd like. We'll put some bling on in a minute too. I'll do this one while we've got this stamp out. And I do have one set up on the Stamparatus as well, permanently. It's on one of my Stamparatus plates. So I can just line the card up and do a whole lot at once. Is the way I've been doing it lately. And that way you've got it set up all the time in exactly the right place. So you could also do that once you get your little Stampin' Up stamp. That comes in a few different stamps. It's at the moment it's in one called Limited Edition, and that actually comes with a few stamps. I'll show you that one. It's got quite a few lovely stamps you can use. So you can just ink up the Stampin' Up bit yourself. So they look like that. So if you didn't want to use the whole piece, you could just ink up that, but there is a single one by itself as well. They're great, and they're great for, sending cards made with love. They've got so many different things in there, so I really like that one. Which is why I actually got that one, I think in one of the events I went to last year, was my free gift. So when you're a demonstrator, you get free gifts as well sometimes when you do the on stage and on tour and things like that. We just got a whole heap of stuff at On Stage this last weekend. So that's my little card. We'll just put our bling on. So I've used the 2022 to 2024 in colour matte decorative dots, and I use my Take Your Pick tool to do these. So Take Your Pick tool is really handy. You can either use the pointy end and go underneath things. So I'll just grab one of these, like under there like that. Carefully, so you've got to be careful to get the glue off as well, because these have little glue on them already. I'll just put these in the same spot I had them on the other one. The other way to do it, I'll show you the other way. Make sure we've got our dot. Is to use this end with the putty on it, and you just grab a dot like that. You push down and slide it. and that puts a nice, so I've used 2 tones there. I like the little tones in that. Very pretty. The other one I used the black twine with the black, there's black decorative dots as well, and the black ink, just to give it a bit of contrast. Right, so that's my second little card now, and if you find that sitting up a bit like that you can just sort of try and bend it a little bit like that, or get your heat gun out again and just heat it a little bit before you stick it down to get it to go back the other way. But that's why I don't like using too much heat on the vellum, because it does make it go a little bit funny, distorted. Okay, there we go. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy making your card. I'd love to see some pictures of your cards. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the envelopes. We do have envelopes. The basic white C6 envelopes you can buy separately, and it's always nice. Oh, that one's a bit crushed. I'll leave that one over there. Still got stuck in something. They're nice to team up, and again, some people stamp their envelopes as well, so you could easily do that as well. There's my cards. So I'll catch you next time. I do lives on Wednesday nights if you'd like to catch me making cards live, and on Wednesday night I make it up as I go along, and it does take a little bit longer but it's a bit of fun, and I get the interaction of my people watching as well to help me sometimes choose different products to use or what colour and stuff like that. So that's 8:30 on my Facebook page in Sydney time, Australia. Alrighty, ciao.